The moment Alexander Blackwood saw her walk through the door, time stopped. This wasn't the woman he had expected, not even close. His heart pounded against his ribs as their eyes met across the crowded restaurant, and in that instant, he knew his life would never be the same. If you've ever wondered whether true love exists beyond appearances, this story will answer that question. Stay with me until the end for a twist that will leave you speechless, and don't forget to like this video and subscribe to see more life-changing stories that remind us what really matters. It had started as a cruel joke at the Millionaires Club, a place where wealth bred arrogance and boredom led to dangerous games. Alexander Blackwood, 34 years old and worth over $2 billion, sat surrounded by men who had everything money could buy but nothing that truly mattered. "You know what your problem is, Alex," said Richard Kensington, swirling expensive scotch in a crystal glass. "You've never had to work for anything in your life. Not your company, not your wealth, and certainly not your women." The other men laughed, their faces flushed with alcohol and privilege. Alexander maintained his composure, though the words stung more than he cared to admit. His father had left him an empire, true, but he had tripled its value through his own business acumen. "What exactly are you suggesting, Richard?" Alexander asked, his voice cool despite the anger simmering beneath. Richard's smile turned predatory. "A bet. To prove you're not just another trust fund baby who only values beauty and status." The room quieted as the other men leaned forward, sensing entertainment brewing. Alexander should have walked away then, but pride kept him rooted to his seat. "I'm listening. Marry the first unattractive woman who applies to your company's new administrative position. Marry her and stay married for 1 year. No prenup, no escape clause." A chorus of "poos" filled the room. The stakes were clear, half his fortune could be at risk. "And if I win?" Alexander asked, already knowing he would accept regardless of the prize. "Each of us will donate $10 million to the charity of your choice," Richard said, gesturing to the 5 other men at the table. $60 million to help those less fortunate. Isn't that what your mother's foundation was all about before she passed? The mention of his mother was a calculated move. She had dedicated her life to helping others, a stark contrast to how Alexander had been living since her death 3 years ago. He had buried himself in work and meaningless relationships, trying to fill the void she left behind. "Fine," Alexander said, extending his hand. "You have a deal." The next morning, nursing both a hangover and regret, Alexander called his HR director and instructed her to forward all applications for the new executive assistant position directly to him. He would conduct the interviews personally. 3 days later, he sat across from Emma Thompson. Her resume was impressive: MBA from a state university, 5 years of relevant experience, but her appearance was exactly what Richard had specified. Her ill-fitting clothes did nothing for her figure, her hair was pulled back severely, and thick glasses obscured most of her face. She fidgeted nervously as he reviewed her qualifications. "Miss Thompson, your credentials are excellent," he said, making his decision. "The position is yours if you want it." Her smile transformed her face, showing a glimpse of something Alexander hadn't expected: genuine warmth. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. I won't let you down." Over the next few weeks, Alexander found himself increasingly drawn to Emma. She was brilliant, anticipating his needs before he voiced them. She reorganized his chaotic schedule, mediated conflicts he'd been avoiding, and somehow managed to make his days run smoothly for the first time in years. But it was her kindness that truly caught him off guard. She remembered everyone's names, from the janitor to the board members. She brought coffee to the security guards on cold mornings. She listened, really listened, when people spoke. One evening, working late, Alexander found Emma staring out his office window at the city lights below. "Beautiful, isn't it?" he said, startling her. "Oh. Mr. Blackwood, I didn't hear you come in." She adjusted her glasses nervously. "Yes, it's breathtaking. All those lights represent people with their own stories, their own struggles and triumphs. I've never thought of it that way, he admitted. My grandmother used to say that wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by what you give, Emma said softly. She raised me after my parents died, and we never had much, but she always found ways to help others. Alexander felt shame wash over him as he remembered the bet. Emma wasn't just some pawn in his game, she was a person with dreams and pain and a history all her own. Would you have dinner with me tomorrow night? He asked impulsively. Her eyes widened behind her glasses. Dinner? With you? Yes, not as your boss. Just as, me. Their first date was at a small Italian restaurant far from the upscale establishments Alexander usually frequented. Emma arrived in a simple dress, her hair still pulled back, but there was a nervousness to her that made her endearing. I've never done this before, she confessed over pasta. Dated someone like you. Someone like me? Someone so far out of my league, she said with a self-deprecating laugh. I'm not blind, Mr. Blackwood. I know what I look like. Alexander, he corrected gently. And you don't give yourself enough credit. As weeks turned into months, Alexander found himself falling for Emma's mind, her heart, her soul. The bet became a distant memory, replaced by genuine feelings he hadn't expected. They spent weekends exploring museums, hiking trails Emma knew from childhood, and volunteering at a local shelter, activities Alexander would have scoffed at a year earlier. 6 months after their first date, Alexander proposed. Not because of the bet, but because he couldn't imagine life without her. The ring was his grandmother's, a modest diamond compared to what he could afford, but rich with history and meaning. Emma cried when he knelt before her in the shelter where they volunteered. Are you sure? She whispered. Someone like you could have anyone. I don't want anyone, he said truthfully. I want you. The wedding was small, nothing like the society event people expected from someone of Alexander's status. Emma wore a simple gown, her hair still in its severe style, her glasses firmly in place. Alexander had never seen anyone more beautiful. Richard and the other men from the club attended, their expressions a mixture of disbelief and amusement. After the ceremony, Richard approached Alexander at the reception. I have to hand it to you, Richard said, clapping him on the shoulder. You actually did it. The money will be transferred to your mother's foundation tomorrow. What money? Emma asked, appearing at Alexander's side. The blood drained from Alexander's face as he realized what was happening. Before he could speak, Richard continued. The 60 million we bet Alexander he couldn't earn by marrying someone like you for a year, Richard said, his words slightly slurred from champagne. Though I must say, you've been a good sport about it all. Emma's face went completely still, a mask hiding whatever storm raged beneath. I see, she said quietly. Then she turned and walked away, her back straight despite the visible trembling of her shoulders. Alexander found her in the garden, silent tears streaming down her face. Emma, please let me explain. Explain what? She asked, her voice breaking. That our entire relationship was based on a bet? That you married me to prove a point to your rich friends? It started that way, he admitted, knowing he owed her the truth. But it changed. I changed. I love you, Emma. More than I've ever loved anyone. How can I believe that? She asked, removing her glasses to wipe her eyes. How can I ever trust anything between us again? Alexander had no answer. He watched helplessly as she walked away, taking his heart with her. The next morning, Emma didn't come to work. Nor the day after. Alexander tried calling, texting, even going to her apartment, but she had disappeared. His perfect life crumbled around him as he realized what he had lost. Weeks passed. Alexander threw himself into his mother's foundation, personally overseeing how the $60 million would be used. He visited shelters, hospitals, and schools, seeing firsthand the difference the money could make. With each visit, he thought of Emma and how she would have approached these projects with compassion and intelligence. 3 months after the wedding, Alexander received an envelope with no return address. Inside was a USB drive and a note in Emma's handwriting, "Watch this alone." With trembling hands, he plugged the drive into his computer and opened the single video file it contained. Emma's face filled the screen, but she looked different. Her severe hairstyle was gone, replaced by soft waves that framed her face. Her glasses were absent, revealing striking green eyes. Even her posture had changed, confident, assured. "Hello, Alexander," she began. "By now you've probably figured out that I'm not who I pretended to be. My name isn't Emma Thompson, it's Eleanor Winters. I'm a journalist working on an exposé about how the ultra-wealthy view and treat those they consider beneath them." Alexander felt the room spin around him as she continued. "I applied for the position at your company after hearing rumors about a bet made at the Millionaires Club. My appearance was carefully crafted to match what I believed you would consider unattractive. My goal was to document how you and your friends objectify and dehumanize people based on appearance and social status." She paused, her expression softening slightly. "What I didn't expect was to discover the man beneath the millionaire. I didn't expect to see you change, to watch you rediscover the values your mother instilled in you. And I certainly didn't expect to fall in love with you." Alexander's heart stopped at those words. "The article I originally planned to write will never be published," Eleanor continued. "Instead, I'm writing about transformation, how people can change when they open themselves to real connection. But I couldn't continue our relationship built on mutual deception." She looked directly into the camera, her eyes filled with both sadness and hope. "If you want to find me, I'll be at the shelter on the first Saturday of next month. No disguises, no pretenses. Just me, the real me. And if you come, I'll know you're there for Eleanor, not Emma. For the woman I truly am, not the one I pretended to be." The screen went black, leaving Alexander in stunned silence. When the first Saturday of the month arrived, Alexander stood outside the shelter, a bouquet of wildflowers in his hand, Emma's favorite. No, Eleanor's favorite. He still struggled to separate the two in his mind. And then he saw her walking toward him. Her hair caught the sunlight, her smile tentative but genuine. Without the disguise, she was conventionally beautiful, but Alexander realized it didn't matter. He had fallen in love with her mind, her heart, her soul, the parts of her that had been real even when her appearance wasn't. "You came," she said simply. "We both made mistakes," he replied. "We both had lessons to learn. But what I feel for you, that's real. That's always been real." Eleanor took a deep breath. "I don't know if we can start over, but maybe we can start from here. No bets, no disguises. Just us." Alexander handed her the wildflowers. "I'd like that." They walked into the shelter side by side, two people stripped of pretenses, ready to discover if what they had found in deception could flourish in truth. 1 year later, Alexander and Eleanor renewed their vows in that same shelter, surrounded by the people whose lives they had touched through their foundation work. Richard and the other men from the club were not invited. As they spoke their vows, honest ones this time, Alexander reflected on the journey that had brought them here. A cruel bet had led to genuine love. A deception had revealed truth. Two people playing roles had discovered their authentic selves. "I never would have believed a year ago that losing a bet would be the best thing that ever happened to me," Alexander said during his vows. "But finding you, the real you, taught me that true wealth isn't measured in dollars but in how much love you give to the world." Eleanor squeezed his hands, tears shining in her eyes. "And I learned that true beauty is revealed when we have the courage to be vulnerable, to be seen for who we really are." As they sealed their vows with a kiss, the shelter erupted in applause. Their story wasn't perfect, it was messy and complicated and real. But it was theirs, and it was just beginning. So remember, as you go about your day, that appearances can be deceiving, but the heart rarely lies. The most beautiful transformations often begin with the most unlikely connections. Like this video if you believe in second chances, and subscribe for more stories that remind us what truly matters in this life isn't what we have, but who we become along the way.